All right, thank you for joining us, guys. I'm Mondo, and this is the Pound for Pound Combat Sports Podcast, and I'm here with my co-host Brandon.
What's up, guys? Glad to be here.
All right, Brandon. So, just so people get to know us a little bit, just kind of tell us what type of experience you have with combat sports.
Yeah, so I grew up, I did Taekwondo in high school, competed amateur, and I did nationals. And then in college, I kind of got into boxing, and I've always been a combat sports fan, but got more into competing in amateur boxing with my friend Mondo here. And so yeah, now we're doing a little podcast together, talking about UFC, boxing, anything combat sports related, and hopefully we can keep this thing going and kind of go over fights before they happen, after, give our own personal perspective analysis of fights. So yeah, I'm excited.
Perfect. Yeah. Personally, as a kid, I did some karate, and then I went a long time without doing any combat sports. But then I started doing some amateur boxing as well. I actually met Brandon doing some amateur boxing, and more recently, I've done a little bit of Muay Thai and kickboxing. So, looking forward to learning more things in the future. And yeah, we should get started with the first topics, reviewing UFC 300 from
Yeah,
last weekend.
let's get into it. So hopefully you can see something on my screen that we got from bottom to top. This was a pretty stat card. Lots of finishes, lots
Yeah.
of exciting fights. Started off the night with Figueiredo versus Garbrandt, which is that's a main event type fight, and that was the early prelims. So I mean,
Yeah,
we can go through one by one,
personally,
or we can cover any of these fights. What are you thinking?
yeah, we should start with Garbrandt and Figueredo. I personally haven't seen Garbrandt fight in a while, so I know he's a little past his prime, but he put up a good fight. You want to
Yeah,
go
like
over round?
yeah, I mean, Garbrandt's one of those fighters. Like he's like a Ryan Garcia type of fighter where he has all those skills, like the power, the speed, the technique. It's just whether what which Garbrandt shows up on that night. And I think in this fight we saw kind of a more gun shy Cody, just not trying to get hit, and that's kind of what we've been seeing in his last couple fights, unfortunately. But what do you think about Cody as a fighter?
Hmm. I feel like he's past his prime, but he was like a very explosive fighter, especially with his hands. He had that little grenade in his right hand.
Oh yeah,
Very famous for that. He knocked out a lot of fighters actually with that overhand right. And
yeah,
he was champion, right? He was champion at one
yeah.
point. He beat Dominic Cruz. Dominic is a uh, Hall of Famer,
Mhm.
super dangerous guy.
For
But I feel
sure.
like yeah, Cody's on his last. Or personally, I feel like he's on his last, or he's at least seen better years. But
Yeah,
Figueredo,
for
did he
sure.
go up in weight, or was he
Yeah,
always a bantamweight?
Figgy, he was a 125er, and you could tell he was cutting a lot of weight. Like you could tell the difference in his body this fight compared to what he looked like before, dude. It was bad. He looked before at 125, he looked like really like malnourished, like super skinny, but this fight he looked filled in, and I think you could see he was really strong. Like he was able to take down Cody and hold him down, and I think that's what made the big difference in this fight was I think Davison just looked a little bit stronger overall, more confident.
And yeah, he's a fresher fighter, and or at least I think he's a fresher fighter. I think he has more fights than Cody, but he might be younger if I'm not mistaken. But
Yeah,
anyway, he's just a more complete fighter too. I
for
feel like
sure. For sure.
more
His
complete fighter.
grappling his grappling's really good, underrated in my opinion.
Oh yeah, for sure he's good. You want to go ahead and move on to the Bobby Green, Jim Miller?
Yeah, so this fight was one of those fights where It was like a pick your poison type of fight. Like a lot of people love Jim Miller, but again, he's getting up there in age. And then obviously everyone likes Bobby Green, but he's one of those fighters. You never know what type of fighter is going to show up. So, I mean, with the odds, I think the odds were pretty good on this fight. Uh, Bobby should have
Yeah,
been the favorite, but at the same time, you never know. Jim's a veteran. He's got lots of tricks up his sleeve, and it was a pick'em fight in my opinion. I thought I thought Bobby's striking was on point this fight. He surprised me. We all know Bobby's a good striker, but he really pieced him up there in the striking department.
yeah, no, yeah. This is Jim's third centennial UFC. So he like they were saying in the little UFC videos that they post on YouTube that he's been part of the UFC 100, UFC 200, and this one, of course. So he's I feel like very past his prime too, but he's been doing good for his age. He's one of those
Yeah,
fighters that has like those extra miles and
yeah.
performs at a higher age. Well, how old is he, Jim Miller?
He's almost 40. I think he just turned 40 or he's 39, really close. Uh,
Okay.
doesn't say on here, but yeah, I saw he's either 39 or 40, which is pretty wild.
Yeah, no, he's getting up there in age. But yeah, Bobby Green. I'm not a personally I'm not a big fan of Bobby Green. I don't know. He just I don't click with him. But I know that he's known for his striking. He says he's
Yeah.
the best boxer in the UFC. I don't think so,
Yeah, I don't think
but
so either.
he's definitely they're definitely entertaining. So what was it? TKO,
It was it
TKO
was
finish
decision. It was decision. But
decision.
it
Oh,
was
okay.
it could have been stopped. Like it was Jim's face was completely covered in blood, and Bobby was really hurting him. But somehow Jim was able to make it to the final bell. But
Yeah, I mean,
Jim was able to hurt Bobby a few times, which made the fight really exciting.
okay, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I know Jim. I think he won his last fight by KO, no, Jim? So he was
Yeah,
coming in like
yeah. It was either
hot.
KO or sub. Yeah, he did get a finish. But
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, we should move on to the next one.
Oh yeah. Andrade Rodriguez. We'll kind of go over that one kind of quick. It was a good fight, but I thought Andrade definitely won. We kind of got a mix of grappling and striking. Obviously, Andrade is better grappler, but Rodriguez was able to get some good stuff on the feet, but nothing crazy on that fight. You have any thoughts on that one?
I'm a little familiar with Andrade. I'm not familiar at all with Rodriguez to be honest though. Um,
Oh yeah,
but
we'll
I
move
have
on
seen
from that
Andrade
one.
like yeah, no worries. Let's look
Yeah,
at that Jalen Turner. Jalen Turner
yeah,
had some hype behind him.
yeah. This was a good.
Dude, that
Did you see this one?
yeah, that one.
Oh my,
Jalen is tall as fuck. First of all, holy
oh
fuck,
my
he's
God.
tall
So this
for
fight,
the weight class.
Jalen drops Hinata Moicano in the first round, and probably could have maybe stopped him. He put him down with one punch, and then he walks away with his hands up while Moicano's recovering, and Moicano gets back to his feet. And then in the second round, um, Moicano comes back and finishes Jalen Turner. It was a really interesting fight. What are your thoughts on
Man, that
fighters walking away after they hurt their opponent?
that's I have the same type of perspective as the fighters that get knocked out, kind of from a cheap shot. You know, only suckers get cheap shotted. So you should never be. You should always finish the fight. You know, finish the
Yeah,
opponent.
for sure. Yeah, so that other than
But
that mishap, I mean, man, that was crazy. That was a good fight.
I know we're going through them kind of fast, but we just have so many good fights to go through. You
Yeah,
know, so
yeah, for
we should
sure.
keep it going.
Yeah. Sadiq Youssef versus Diego Lopez. So we know Sadiq Youssef is he's kind of been in the UFC for a while now. I mean, he's always been an up and comer, like rising star, but he's never really had that breakthrough. Whereas Diego Lopez, he's a true beginner, like in the UFC at least. He's got tons of fights. I think almost like 20, 30 fights, but in the UFC, I think he just joined the UFC last year. He's kind of the
He's
same
mainly
thing,
a
right?
grappler, no?
Yeah, so
He's
he's known
mainly
for
like
his
grappler.
yeah, he's known for his grappling, but man, he can strike. He surprised me here.
I saw.
Yeah, I was so before this fight, I thought on the feet Sadiq would probably have the advantage, but man, I was wrong. It was really early. Diego throws like a 5-6 punch combination, hurts Sadiq early, and Sadiq just never recovers. It was Diego Lopez, in my opinion, he's the fighter to be watching at that weight class at 145. I think within two fights, if he wins his next two fights, he's gonna be fighting for the title.
I feel like yeah, they got him on that trajectory, like the superstar trajectory. They when he hurt him, it was from a clinch. No, he hurt him with some uppercuts from the clinch.
Yeah, it was pretty much a clinch. It was like it was so it was almost a clinch, but they weren't holding each other. It was just like they were right in each other's faces. And
Oh,
he just
okay,
landed like a
like some
yeah. It was basically clinch range, but he had his hands free and he just let go on Sadiq and really hurt him. I don't know about the finishing exchange. I think the finishing exchange might have been in the clinch, but the exchange that started it off was like a five-piece combination by Diego. It was nuts.
yeah. I didn't go to rewatch it, but from what I can remember, it looked like it was like a tie clinch almost. But it was definitely in like super close range.
Yeah, I think the finish. I think you're
But
right though. I think the finishing sequence was like against the cage on the clinch, yeah,
definitely
but yeah.
excited
So
to see more of this guy.
yeah, we definitely got to be watching out for Diego Lopez. I mean, his first fight was against this guy named Ivalaev, and he's undefeated, an absolute monster. And Diego cinched up like six submission attempts and almost finished him several times, which is why I've been so excited to see Diego. But yeah, let's go on to this next fight: Holly Holm versus Kayla Harrison. What are your thoughts about Kayla Harrison?
I was actually excited to see her come over from the PFL. I did follow her a little bit on the PFL. I know she's like a three-time judo gold medalist, something like that, right?
Yeah,
Super.
I think she's a two. She's won worlds several times, and then I think she won two gold medals at the Olympics.
Oh, okay, yeah, something like that. I know she was like super high caliber judo. Um, they try to like kind of compare it to Ronda, no, a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, I think
She's
Kayla,
strong, bro.
dude, yeah. So the part that surprised me in this fight was I don't know how she made 135 pounds. Like in judo, she competed. I think I saw she competed at 170. At
Yeah,
PFL,
dude,
she was
she looks
fighting
fucking
at
big.
she was fighting at 155 at PFL, and somehow she got down to 135. And you can even see on this picture, you can kind of see her stomach is like kind of sucked in almost. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
was she
So
the favorite
yeah, she was the
coming into the
favorite
fight?
yeah. I guess it doesn't show the odds here, but she was like a three or 4-1 favorite, pretty big favorite.
'Cause I know Holly's like she's strong too. Like when
Mm-hmm.
she fought Ronda, she looked physically strong. Like all the like takedown attempts Ronda tried on her, like she was stopping her. And then of
Yeah.
course she was piecing her up and had that head kick. But you think it was like a little Holly messed up a little bit trying to play Kayla's game, trying to take her
Oh
down.
yeah,
You think
yeah. So Holly's one of those kickboxers. So she came up from a kickboxing background, but she's one of those kickboxers that got pretty good at grappling, and she was able to reverse one of Kayla's takedowns, but ended up just not being able to figure out how to stay on top, and Kayla kind of dominated from that initial clinch exchange, and Holly never really had a chance after that. But yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to tell if we think about her changing her game plan to like trying to keep distance. Maybe Kayla. I mean, it would have made a difference. Maybe Kayla would have closed the distance down and taken her down eventually. But I did see the reversal, and I did see get her getting flattened out and finished.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I
That
mean, she's also past her prime. But that's a
true.
good first fight for Kayla.
Yeah, I think Kayla's gonna be a problem in the UFC. I think she she's just too big and too strong for a lot of these bantamweights. But yeah, we'll
Like
move on to the next
like
fight.
my Yeah, go ahead. The
Yeah, yeah.
Calvin Cater and the Sterling.
Yep, Calvin Cater Sterling. We'll go over this one quick. Pretty
I mean,
boring fight.
domination.
Yeah,
Yeah, just
pretty dominant.
domination.
Yep. I mean, we see here
Wrestling.
he shot 13 takedowns, got 8 of them. I mean, when you shoot 13 and land 8, you know what kind of fight that's going to be. So, pretty one-sided. Aljamain, I think he's going to do good at featherweight, but I don't think anyone's going to want to watch that again. So, we'll just move on. We'll just we'll leave it at that. So, next fight we got
Yeah.
Yuri versus Alexander Rakic. This was a freaking banger fight. I mean, what are your thoughts on Yuri Prohaska?
Yuri, he's an odd cat, but I like Yuri. He does come to fight every single time. He just got beat by Pereira in his last fight. He got like countered with a uppercut and left hook, I think, right? And then when he went for the takedown, he took those elbows to the side of the head or something. But for this fight, Rakic looked fast, bro, to begin
Oh
with.
yeah, he looked really good.
Yeah, he looked. I'm not very familiar with Rakic to be honest with you, but he looked fast, and
Yeah,
he hit Yuri with some good leg kicks. Yuri looked physically like that they were hurting him,
oh yeah,
but Yuri is it's hard to train for Yuri or for
yeah,
Yuri. He moves weird. I mean, everybody says that, so it must be true.
yeah. Like
What did you think?
I've seen Rakic fight before, but not super familiar with him. But this was the best I've seen him. I thought after the first round or two, I thought Rakic had this one. But I think slowly after Rakic landed so many good shots on Yuri and realized he can't really put him out, I think that's kind of where this fight started to turn around for Yuri. And when Rakic had to fight through adversity, I think that kind of messed with his head where he's like, man, if I can't hit Yuri, then I don't know what I'm gonna do. And then once Yuri hurts Rakic, I think that was kind of the beginning of the end. And Yuri's chin is
Yeah,
underrated, man. Like Yuri's ability to be down round after round. Like we saw it in the Glover Teixeira fight. Even though he lost pretty much all those rounds, he still finished Glover in the last round. Like this dude does not
no,
give up.
yeah,
He comes to finish, and he was able to get the job done against Rockets too, which is pretty exciting to watch.
yeah. He's dangerous till the end, and like that's what you were hitting the point you hit on before that Rakic kind of got mentally he was like, dang, I can't hurt this guy. And his mental kind of faded away. I think that's what really makes the difference between someone that's a championship level, championship caliber to like just a contender or not even a top contender, you know?
Yeah, yeah, kind of like a journeyman.
Yeah. All right, let's hit the next one. Bo Nickel.
Yeah, we got Bo Nickel, rising star. Someone that's
Yeah.
maybe potentially overhyped, but we can't say that because so far he's shown up and he's gotten the job done every single time. So it's hard to tell what we're gonna see from Bo Nickel once he starts fighting these higher ranked fighters. But I mean, he fought Cody Brundage, who's someone who's tough, durable. He's fought good opponents, but even in this one, you can see Bo Nickel was a minus 2,000 going into the
Oh
fights.
shit. That's crazy.
Yeah, so it's like even against someone like Cody Brundage, odds makers still got Bo way ahead. So, what are your thoughts on Bo?
Bo, I mean, we can it's too early to say that he's overhyped. He definitely has some good skills. Of course, wrestling skills. He still looks, even though people say that his striking's been looking good, I think it looks super green. But that's just I'm a striker, so I like to see better skills from people that strike. Um, but from a boxing parallel, this is what they do with boxers. The up and comers, they build them up. The ones that have high profiles, a good name, and I think that's what they're doing with Bo. And I'm just excited to see what his next fights are looking like.
Same, same. I think UFC is doing a pretty good job with him. I mean, he came into the UFC with like only 3 or 4 fights, so it's like it's hard to just throw him into the pool
Yeah,
right
yeah.
away. So I think yeah, there's still a lot untested, but I think he will be probably a top 10 fighter if he can if they can build him up right.
Definitely has some good talent for sure, like
Yeah.
potential.
So next fight we got we got Charles Oliveira versus Arman Sarukian. And this was a pretty interesting matchup. I mean, it's similar matchup to Charles versus Makhachev, right? We've got Arman, who's a grappler that can strike, but obviously would prefer to wrestle when the striking is not when it's not
Yeah,
necessary. But we kind of saw pretty dominant performance by Arman. Although I would have liked to see Arman probably do more. He's one of those fighters that can gain a dominant position, but doesn't necessarily go for finishes all the time. Whereas you got Charles Oliveira, I mean, he's just a straight up finisher, right? He's always looking for the finish, and we saw that in this fight. We saw Charles cinch up not one but two submissions that had Arman in serious trouble. Like I think the first round and the last round, Oliveira was very close to finishing Arman, and I think I saw this highlight. So during the first submission, I didn't even realize it, but Arman's shorts came off of him, and people were
I saw
saying that,
that.
yeah, they're saying that that thing alone is what possibly saved Arman because it gave him a little bit of, it made Charles Oliveira lose his guard or his grip with his legs, and that kind of just created
Really,
a little bit of separation where Charles couldn't hold Arman down completely, and Arman was able to survive. So props to Arman, but I thought judging wise, honestly, if you're gonna judge this fight on who was closer to a finish, I think you got to give this to Oliveira.
for sure, for sure. Yeah. Um, I remember when they did the close up and Oliveira was sticking his tongue out, and then they moved to Armin's face. Dude, his face was red. It was like you could see the blood vessels popping, like he was ready to go out. And then, like you
Yep.
said, he went underneath. I don't know much about grappling, but he got out of that close one. And like you said, he doesn't go for finishes too much, but he does know how to control the body with his wrestling very well. And I mean, it shows that he has like a room for growth, still things to learn to, you know, get better at transitioning to a finish. But I'm not super familiar with Armand. If people try to compare him to from this fight, compare him to Makhachev. Makhachev definitely better striker, and Makhachev has some good finishes, bro. So I feel like overall, one or two levels above Makhachev. But I mean, Oliveira is no slouch. Oliveira was a boogeyman, therefore he had a little run, you know.
Yeah, for sure. I think we saw in this fight Oliveira is not going anywhere anytime soon. He's going to be up there for a while. So we got
And
three
then
fights
to
left.
the
We got Gaethje versus Holloway. Freaking banger.
oh, what a banger!
Let's go over these last three quick, and then we'll go to the boxing. So we got Gaethje versus Holloway. I thought pretty one sided, honestly. Like Gaethje was able to land a lot of leg kicks, but it was Max Holloway. It was the story of this fight, piecing him up, moving around, moving, sticking, and even though he was
He's
up on
using
the
his
score,
length.
yeah, using his length, and even Max is a dog. Even when he's up, when he has the fight in the bag, he doesn't care. He's looking to really put on a performance, entertain the crowd, and we saw that in the last 5 seconds. He points to the ground. He's clearly ahead on the scorecards. He says, "F that. This is for the BMF. Let's go down right here in the center of the octagon." And he just blew everybody's mind. Like I remember after that finish, dude, I was just in shock for like the next 3 minutes. I literally couldn't believe what I saw.
Yeah, a lot of people calling it one of the greatest what the fuck moments, or if not the
Yeah,
greatest what the fuck moment in the UFC. I don't know because there's so many of those moments in the UFC. Just because so many styles, so many things have happened, but definitely up there in the top. And yeah, like you said, he was using his length. How tall is Gaethje? I'm curious on that
I think he's
because
about
he.
5'10", maybe. Um, yeah,
Let me
five
look up.
ten. Holloway's like 5'11", so but
Okay, so it wasn't that big of a discrepancy, but it just
yeah, utilization wise.
Holloway, yeah, he knows how to use the length. Gaethje
Yeah.
is more like trying to get in closer, but that's because I know MMA math, and this is a great example of how MMA math is like never right. Because Poirier beat Max, and then you could also say that Max wasn't ready for that fight, or he didn't prepare properly. And fuck no, never mind. Poirier, they beat Gaethje once. They fought twice, and Poirier beat Gaethje once, and then Gaethje knocked him out. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, MMA
Yeah, no,
math
never mind.
is yeah, MMA math is really weird, but I think we saw Max Holloway just continues to get better. And same with Gaethje, but I think the upside, I think Max's upside is just higher a lot higher than Gaethje's in my opinion.
And personally, after Max lost those fights to Volkanovski, maybe I started to think that he might be slipping away from the world championship level.
Mhm.
But now that he did this to Gaethje at a higher weight class, I'm starting to
Yeah,
think that there's still room for him to maybe contend for a belt here in the future. Hopefully.
facts. Facts.
I
And
mean, he
shout
did.
out, you got it.
I was gonna say he did win he won the BMF belt, but that's not the actual belt. That is a
Yeah.
really cool belt, and I like what it stands for. But if you're a fighter, you trying to get that real gold strap, that
Mhm.
UFC belt.
Facts. I think Holloway's one fight away from the title if he wins his next fight.
You think Topuria? You think
I
that's
think
next for him, or
so Poirier is supposed to fight Islam, so I think what I think is gonna
oh, is that
happen is
so? Oh
yeah,
shit.
I think if Islam beats Dustin, Islam fights Arman, and then Max fights Dustin, and if Max can beat Dustin, I think Max fights the winner of Arman versus Islam. Yeah, if Dustin beats Islam, I think they go straight for Holloway versus Dustin for the title.
Hmm.
But yeah, so the next two fights we had Wei Li versus Yao Xiaonan. Um, Pretty dominant performance by Wei Li, so we'll kind of just skip over that one, honestly, unless there's anything you want to talk about for that.
Nah, I was sick this day, so I was like, and doing homework, so I was,
Oh yeah,
resting, doing a
yeah,
little
yeah.
homework and watching, so I didn't get to see all of them.
There was one thing I did want to say was Wei Li put Yan virtually out. I don't know if you saw Wei Li. It was like 10 seconds left. Wei Li puts Yan out, and then the bell rings and Yan wakes up and she's somehow able to get to her corner. I think that was questionable, but yeah, I think that should have been a submission win for Wei Li. But
Damn, I did not see that.
yeah, it was pretty wild. Like Jan was clearly out, but like not like completely out. Whereas like she got up, but you could for a split second there she was not moving, and then she gets up. But yeah, let's go on to the Piera versus Hall or Hill. What do you think about Alex Piera?
Dude, I don't know if he's like an exception to the rule, but like, um, it shows how chaotic MMA is. Like
Yeah,
you have a person that was he started kickboxing late, actually, at least compared to boxing. If I parallel to boxing, boxers that are championship level, they start boxing like world class boxers. They start boxing when they're like kids. If somebody starts boxing when they're adults, they never reach championship level. In kickboxing, because it has a little more tools, there's more space. In MMA, it's even less because they have so many tools, so many paths to victory, and that's why you see all these like right people that started doing MMA and they're after college and reach championship level.
right.
But Pereira, I don't know if he's an exception to the rule because like he got a black belt in this past fight, but I don't even know if it's legitimate. Do you think it's legitimate?
uh, it's hard to say because I don't know when Piera started grappling, so I mean, we haven't seen very much good grappling from Pereira so far, so I don't know if it's legitimate. I don't even know if he has that many subs, but one thing I do know
I don't think
is his power is
it's
non-comparable to like
crazy.
anybody in his weight class. Like the way he put out
So you
Jamal
think
Hill
that
was insane.
You think that he's just been lucky that people really don't have high caliber wrestling, that people that he's or the champions that he's faced, or
I
you
do,
think that
yeah.
like you think that's a factor?
I think that is a big factor, and I mean, matchups are everything. More so in MMA than any other combat sports, right? Because you got the mix.
Yeah.
So I think Pereira has been honestly pretty blessed. Not, I'm not taking anything away from Pereira, but when you put him in against someone like maybe like Ankalaev, someone who's big, strong, and can wrestle, I think that's where we start to see some of the big gaps in Pereira's game. But when you put him
Like
against like a Jamal
someone like
Hill, keep going.
okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. Like someone that's predominantly like wrestling would be Pereira, right? That's what
Yeah,
you're trying to say?
someone who's predominantly wrestling but can also strike, right? Like it
Yeah,
because
I
I
feel
think
from
you go ahead.
oh, I was just gonna say that it seems like the people that have a lot of success in the UFC are the people that are specialists at something and then can kind of mix it up too. But if people have been just doing like MMA, but they're not really specialists in anything, like Jamal has some hands, but from a striking perspective, like I don't know, he looks sloppy to me, and he got exposed by
Yeah,
Pereira in
yeah,
that sense. So I feel like if you're a specialist in something and then you can kind of mix it up, I feel like that's the best recipe for success in the UFC now. But maybe in the future, if kids are growing up mixing it up from a very young age like boxers do, maybe that's not going to be the case then because everything's going to be so sharp. But I feel like if you started like doing MMA late and you're predominantly an MMA fighter, like maybe you don't have an upper hand against a specialist that's super good at something, but is also can also mix it up a little. You know what I'm saying? Do I get my point
yeah,
across?
yeah. I think you make a great point there because when you have someone who's a specialist like Pira, like even if you're a good striker like Jamal Hill, that aspect completely changes the fight because essentially you're going in there and you're like, dang, I'm a good striker. I want to strike against this guy, but the entire time mentally you're like, this guy is the better striker. He's done this for a living. He has the edge in every aspect, and so he's taking away from Jamal Hill's um, what Jamal Hill's good at, which is striking. So he's automatically going in with kind of like a disadvantage. Whereas if Jamal Hill is fighting anybody else, he's gonna have the extra confidence in his striking. But against Para, like even if you have good striking, you're going against someone who's a complete specialist in it. So it completely changes like your mental look on the fight. And then when you go in, you know, okay, this guy's a good striker, and you try to change up your game plan, you try to go more grappling heavily. That is also is a disadvantage because then you're going away from what you're good at. So it's like when you're fighting a specialist, it's kind of like a lose lose situation unless you yourself are like a specialist in something that counters
Right.
their specialty.
And like wrestling, right? Wrestling, like Khabib, like a specialist in sambo, which
Mm-hmm.
sambo is kind of mixed, but it's a lot of wrestling uh fundamentals. At
Yeah,
least from I don't know much about grappling, but at like from first sight you can see, oh, that's definitely closer to wrestling than to striking at least,
yeah,
and he took advantage of that specialty big time with
yeah.
also being able to mix it up a little bit and the other things.
Yeah,
But yeah,
exactly. So yeah, you make a good point. Like when you're coming into MMA with a specialty, you have a distinct advantage because not only do you get to exercise that specialty, you're also taking away from your opponent's game plan because they're no longer going to fight to their best ability, right? They're gonna tailor their game to you, whereas you're just gonna do what you're good at, right? If you're a
yeah, yeah.
specialized. Oh,
Then there's
that
like the might go ahead.
yeah, you're good. You're good.
I was just gonna finish it off, but then there's like the specialists in MMA that really didn't have any specialists but were hyper successful, like Mighty Mouse or GSP or like even John Jones. Like I
Yeah,
don't know, it's a hard one, but I see how there's a innate upper hand with someone that comes in with a specialty and can mix it up.
yeah, there
I don't
there
know.
is there is an exception. There are those unicorns, like you said, the Demetrius Johnsons, the John Jones, the GSPs. Every now and then you get those once in a generation type fighters where they can literally do any. anything, and they're good at everything. Like we kind of saw that with Volkanovski, right? He was
Yeah,
able to mix it up and basically use any style until he kind of moved up, and that kind of changed things. But yeah, there definitely are fighters that can do everything well. So yeah, I mean that kind of wraps up UFC 300. I think we're just gonna finish this off talking about that fight, Ryan Garcia versus Devin Haney. That was a freaking amazing fight. That was a fight that a lot of fight fans were excited for, not just boxing fans, but all combat sports fans. Um, I think Ryan Garcia.
yeah.
I think Ryan Garcia is not just a master boxer, but a master promoter because he really just fooled everybody going into this fight. He had me fooled. Like he made it look like he was just messing around, not taking the fight seriously, just playing a complete mind game. Like he he's a good fighter, but when you see a fighter that's going off the rails, going off the chains, like at the championship level, you have to be. It doesn't matter how good you are, you have to be taking everything serious, no matter who you're fighting. And we just saw a complete mind f out of Ryan Garcia. He tricked us. He had me fooled, but he definitely took this fight serious, and I think he takes every fight serious. Um, Go ahead and let me know what you think about Ryan as a fighter and Ryan as a promoter.
Well, like he he's definitely found the little Goldilocks, of fighting in this day and age where like social media is a huge aspect, the internet. Like he was a star before people knew he was a fighter, probably. Like straight from the amateurs. I'm sure if you look on YouTube, if you look back at his videos on like shout out Ellie Segback or like those old school boxing reporters, like they had Ryan Garcia as an amateur, like, the Rolly Romero spars. Like there's these people that are super famous, but he took it to another level. Um, I mean, yeah, dude, he's like internet celebrity, but also can fight, and like he shut a lot of people down. Like everybody called him a TikToker and first, and boxer second, and one of those people was Devin, and
Yeah,
he got his mouth shut. And like
for sure.
everybody was thinking that Devin was just gonna wash Ryan easy. But my point was that Devin coming from like 135. Did he fight at 130 at one point, or was 135 his
I
first
think
weight class?
135 was. I'll double check, but I think he started at 135.
But like, if you see Devin, even like as a younger person, he had the advantages of being super tall for that weight class and just bigger. And especially now that he's becoming more of a man, you could see his last performances at 135. Like his last 135 performance against his last opponent, he was like 20 pounds heavier than him on the in the ring, walking out. But when he moved up to 140, people were thinking that he had acquired power because he wasn't training himself, but I don't think so. He hit Ryan clean a few times throughout the fight. Ryan didn't really feel anything, and Devin was feeling everything that Ryan was catching him with.
100%. I think Devin's got a good chin, but I think when you're in there against someone like Ryan, it doesn't matter how good your chin is. Like if you get hit clean, like Devin got hit, you're probably gonna go down. But I will say Devin is a true champion in that he got up every single time he got hit or every time he went down. So props to Devin showing his championship spirit. I think it's just Ryan had his number. Ryan had the speed, the power. I think Devin was surprised and he did not have the game plan once he got. I mean, like Mike Tyson says, everyone has a plan until they get hit. I think that's what happened. The very first round, Ryan hit him with a left hook, and I think from then on, I think Devin's whole game plan changed, and he was never able to get comfortable in that fight.
Yeah, and on Ryan, people thought that because he lost a tank that like he was exposed or something. But like he showed me those pictures of like Tank fighting Devin, and then the night that he fought Tank with the rehydration clause. It was like night and day, man. Ryan looked like his cheeks were protruding. Like you could see that he was definitely not in his best physically, you know?
Yeah, I'm trying to find the picture, but yeah, he just looked really frail, skinny, dehydrated. And if you compare how he looked in this fight, where he looked not out of shape, but he you could see he had fat on his body, he wasn't drained at all. Like that makes a huge difference at the highest level. It might not in amateurs, but at the highest level, those little things definitely make a difference. And we saw that here. Like Ryan was able to take everything Devin threw at him. Not that Devin's has the power that Tank has, but you could see that Ryan just wasn't able to recover against shots that he took from Tank. But I think that was mostly due to the rehydration clause, which is something I don't agree with. I don't like rehydration clause, but you know it's part of the game. It worked for Tank, so I mean, who am I to say he can't do that? Like when you're the
I mean,
face of
Ryan,
boxing, yeah,
yeah. Oh, I'll disagree with that. That Tank is the face of boxing, but he did. Ryan did sign the contract, so it was on him. I mean, he was trying to make the fight, but now he makes a case for maybe, you know, uh, trying to get a better contract next time he goes
for
to sit
sure,
down. If there's a rematch with Tank in the future, he makes a good case for that with his performance. I'm
for
not saying
sure,
that Ryan's gonna be the next pound for pound person, but I mean now he makes a really good case for future fights against like because they whenever they talked about all the top prospects or whatever, they always had Shakur number one or Tank number one, Devin. They always had Ryan last, but now like he just switched that all around, you know.
yeah, one
Now
hundred
I'm
percent.
leaning now a Shakur versus Ryan Tank. I'm leaning towards Ryan based on their last performances. Shakur, honestly, didn't look that good in his last performance. Again, someone that was also just as athletic as him, or if not more, just as fast, just as long. And Ryan, that boy is long. He knows how to use the range, and he's fast and powerful. So I don't
Yeah,
know,
I
but
think
it's a good fight.
I think at the championship level, I think you know, it's good to be a great boxer. Like when you're a really great boxer, you're able to maneuver fights and be able to get away with um you know, winning most of the decisions, but I think you also see there is a limit. Like when you're a true fighter and you have that power, that grit, you can stop a true boxer in not maybe not every fight, but 50-50. You have a 50-50 chance of finishing them even if you can't get to a decision, you know what I mean? And I think that's what we saw
And that
against Devin.
that's a great point because virtually they were the same height. I think Ryan was like a inch taller. They had like the same reach, or similar reach. I know Devin is known for having a huge reach. Um, they were similar in speed, but just I feel like Ryan had better timing than Devin. But when like Devin fights someone that's like athletically and anatomically similar to him, like you see the discrepancies in his style and
Hmm.
his skills, you know, because everybody says that Devin was like a master boxer with great defense, and honestly, maybe he was just faster than everybody else that he was fighting. He was, you know, like
Yeah,
speed is not defense, and
yeah.
then Ryan kind of exposed that.
Facts, facts. Like, I mean, we've seen Devin get hit with some good shots, but I don't think Devin's ever been hit with anything that Ryan landed in that fight. And you can see when it comes down to it, it doesn't matter how good of a boxer you are. When you get hit with a good punch, that everything goes out the door. You know what I mean? Like your whole game plan has to change. And I think we saw that Devin just had no backup plan for what he was going to do against a dangerous, fast, explosive fighter like Ryan, who's going to be relentless after he hurts you. So I think that's what we saw in that
Yeah,
fight.
I mean, it's easy to make adjustments when you're getting hit with something that's not really hurting you, but when you're getting hurt every time you're getting hit with something flush, I mean, it's hard to make cognitive decisions when the organ that makes cognitive decisions is getting rattled, you know. I feel like that's
100%.
something that people don't put into
Yeah.
perspective.
Yeah, so now that everything's interesting now, Ryan definitely just shook up the whole entire boxing game. Like, I think boxing is pretty orderly for the most part. You see the people that are supposed to win, they win, and then they go on to do the mandatories and then build up the next fight, blah blah blah. And then every now and then you get those people that aren't supposed to necessarily win, and they completely change the game. Like we see that in heavyweight. We saw that a little bit with the light heavyweight with the Canelo and Bivol. Every now and then you get those people that aren't supposed to win, and then everything changes. So I like that. Like
But
we don't get enough of that. Like in the UFC, I feel like you get that quite a bit because of UFC
so many
the best.
factors.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
best. Yeah, many factors, but the best fight the best. But sometimes in boxing, you don't always get that. But here we get that. We got two of the best fighters fighting each other, and then we got someone who wasn't necessarily supposed to win. They win, so now that just shook up the whole entire division. Going forward, like right now, we're interested in Brian seeing him fight Shakur, Tank Davis again. I don't know if a lot of people were interested in seeing Ryan fight Tank Davis again, but after this fight, we're definitely interested in that.
Now they are, for
Yep,
sure.
yep,
Yeah, now they really are.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think that wraps up everything we wanted to cover on this podcast today. Many more to come, but was there anything else you wanted to finish on?
That's uh that's a wrap right there. We
Yeah.
hit all the topics we wanted to hit. Just excited for the future fights now with this dynamic change.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm also excited to see what Devin brings. Like part of being a true champion is to bounce back from wins and learn. Now,
Yeah.
maybe he's not as good as a boxer. I mean, he's a top tier boxer right now. Don't get me wrong, but you know, it's good to see if he makes any improvements and fight the top dogs again.
Right. I
That
think
goes for everybody.
yeah. And like it's funny, even though Ryan won, Devin still has the belt, so it's like I guess kind of Devin
Oh
didn't lose too
yeah,
much. He did lose the fight, but he still got that belt, so I mean he still holds the cards for making his next big fight. Well, which is interesting,
yeah.
but I think I want to see that rematch first. What about you?
Devin versus Ryan rematch.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I think they have that the rematch clause in the contracts, and because Ryan, even though Devin has the belt, I feel like there's a consensus that Ryan is the people's champ. If you look back at like all the reportings from the reactions of the current fighters and ex boxers, everybody is saying that Ryan is the paper champ, and he proved a lot of people wrong. So the fact that
Yeah.
he missed weight, that caveat right there, I feel like that. I mean, from a marketing perspective, that's the best possible thing that could have happened for Devin.
For
To
sure.
try to
For
get
sure.
that back.
For sure. And he got like an extra what, like I think he got an extra 1.5 million. So I mean, even though
That's
Devin lost,
huge plus.
he still got a lot of things
Yeah.
going for him in this fight, which is cool. But yeah, that I mean that'll wrap up this podcast. Like I said, I'm Brandon. This is Mondo, and we're gonna have probably one more co-host on this podcast next time, hopefully. But hopefully this was like a good introduction into what you're gonna be seeing from us, and we've got a lot more coming for you guys. So yeah, hopefully you guys tune in. This was the Pound for Pound podcast for combat sports. Um, yeah, thanks for watching.
Thank you guys.